Hi, my book peeps, it's Courtney. Welcome back to my channel. Hopefully you're having a good day and getting some good books in. I'm having my tea and I'm in the middle of ARC August weekend to be exact. I'm going to list the host for this readathon below. So of course the whole goal is to read some ARCs. And I picked up one on a very sensitive topic from NetGalley, as you can see by the title. So if this video is not for you, you know what, I understand. However, it is definitely relevant. So The Secret History of the Rape Kit, a true crime story, was very enlightening and also kind of validating for some of the things that I, read about, heard about, things like that in my childhood and beyond, right? So anyway, so the original creator of the Rape Kit is actually, I'll call it a collaboration between a Chicago police sergeant named Louise Vitullo and another activist, Martha Goddard. She calls herself Marty, right? Now, she is actually the original brainchild of this kit. However, she, and this is according to her, allowed him to take credit for it because, this was like in the 1970s, so women weren't really getting their flowers at that particular time. And since he was basically trying to take credit for it anyway, she went ahead and let him do it because she felt that was such an important evidence collecting kit that it was better for it to just be put on the market and get out there versus being tied up in, red tape, patriarchal politics. So I understand that, but it's very unfair. But we're going to center on Martha or Marty Goddard, right? So Marty basically had a very tumultuous childhood, alcoholic mother, abusive father. She just was kind of on her own. She was also sexually abused herself, just like the author of this book was also sexually abused. Now, Marty herself, she lived kind of a reclusive life as she went on. She threw herself into her work. Eventually, she spiraled into alcoholism and then just kind of went off the rails. She had a very keen interest in activism throughout most of her life and standing up for victims in whatever capacity. So when she was working as a call center representative, and you had all of these teens calling in with these heartbreaking stories about what happened to them and what caused them to leave home, is when she thought of the whole idea of the Rape Kit. And the Rape Kit is basically an evidence collection kit. Gather evidence of this crime so that it could be prosecuted later on, because she felt that there was an overwhelming lack of investigation and prosecution for sexual assault crimes against women and against children. Now, I thought that this book itself, it spoke a lot of the truths that I think little girls are taught as they're growing up. Oh, watch out. Little boys are going to look underneath your dress and they're going to think about sexual stuff. Make sure you don't dress a certain way because, you're just asking for it. Men are going to think certain things. Look in the back seat of your vehicle because there's somebody waiting to jump out and rape you. Make sure you don't go to a party and dress a certain way and act a certain way because you're going to let boys think certain things and have liberties. I just heard things like that my entire life. And she kind of pinpoints and talks about the ideas like a girl is basically taught that somebody's waiting to rape her around each and every corner. But little boys are not taught that same thing. The idea that sex is used as a weapon, and sex has always been used as a weapon against women since the beginning of time. And that's very unfortunate for an activity that is supposed to be utilized for procreation and, dare say pleasure, but it is used as a weapon against a particular gender for the most part. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't happen to men. I'm just speaking about women from this particular standpoint. I will say, though, that this book did not address that sexual assault of men too. Okay, so this is definitely one-sided, I will say that. But the kit itself, though, is designed for both men and women, so very universal. So Marty's idea was to design a kit that would be standardized across the United States in order to collect evidence, denote who would collect the evidence and the whole chain of custody to get it to the crime lab, and have a standardized testing of these samples in the crime lab. Because many times, because of faulty evidence collection or because of faulty analyzation, samples are thrown out and blows up the case and nothing ever gets done, and there is no justice for the person that has been assaulted. So she wanted to work with all facets of the medical community, the police department, as well as the crime lab, which makes whole sense. However, with the effectiveness of her kit, it went from evidence that was thrown out due to improper collection, went from 1/3 to 2%. So that's pretty significant. She also talked about corruption and racism within the Chicago Police Department in the 1960s and how there was an attempt to overhaul that and how much of a struggle it was. And when it comes to the handling of sexual assault victims, she talked about how re-victimizing that was, about how the guys would take naked pictures of the women and then circulate it around the police department. Very, very demeaning. As well as the fact that above the police department's sexual crimes division, there was pink panties denoting that that was the hallway. Totally disgusting. She talked about early investigations into sexual crimes against women were not taken serious, and they weren't even scientific. A lot of times it was up to whether or not the male police officer believed that the woman was a victim. And if he didn't believe, then evidence might not have even been collected in the first place. And she also said that even as technology advanced, there was still this huge belief that a lot of these women were lying. And Marty believed that evidence, if it was collected, would threaten people that were in power and authority, and would potentially show a failure on the criminal justice system. And they're definitely not trying to have that in the police department. Although, time and time again, evidence has shown there are a lot of failures out there. So collecting evidence was basically a waste of the police officer's time. She also talked about the inequities in investigating sexual crimes against Black individuals. Now, this is like the 1960s and 70s and even into the 80s. But she talked about how there was a reluctance to investigate crimes against Black women because it was believed that that was just something that was part of the Black community. And it was Black on Black crime. So what does it matter? What's the fuss? And also, the clinics and resources available to women of sexual assault were not even available in many poor and minority communities. So she wanted to correct that. The 1960s and 70s and before was definitely not a good time for women in order to get things done, that's for sure. Now, what I thought was really interesting is a big supporter of Marty was Hugh Hefner. Now, Hugh Hefner in Playboy is a big proponent for sexual freedom and liberation and all that stuff, right? But when she was having an issue with acquiring funding, he actually helped her in that respect of, throwing parties and whatnot to be as fundraisers. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So he may have had his faults, but he helped out. Now, eventually you got this standardized kit that, we currently use today. And, there's definitely been a lot of evolution for it and it's taken on. And you also have this thing called a Me Too kit, which I had no idea about. And that is an actual at-home rape kit where victims can actually collect evidence on their own. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Also, some other facts that I thought was interesting was that DNA matching was actually developed by a British scientist in 1984. And the National Database for Criminal DNA is CODIS, and that was developed in 1998. So evidence collection and DNA matching and all the technology or whatnot has definitely increased over time. So I, for one, am very appreciative of that, because there are a lot of innocent people that are in jail and a lot of criminals walking around. So DNA matching definitely helped. The kit definitely helped. You know, every little bit helps. So I'm all for that. So Marty Goddard, I salute you, okay? But good book. I definitely suggest you check it out if you're interested in some hard facts about the evolution of the rape kit and what has helped people today. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here and find another arc. Bye, y'all.